guys, so today is chapter 2 of Graced and Gifted. So if you're reading along or just are interested in what's in chapter 2 so that we can discuss, stay tuned. Alright guys, so we're going to jump right into it. Chapter 2 is titled Ordinary Work, Extraordinary Grace. It was pretty short, but it had a lot of good nuggets of information here. So I'm just going to pull out what stood out to me, and then in the comments, please share if you're reading along what stood out to you most, or from the video what you what resonates with you. And do not forget, this is a collab with Rhiannon over at My Little Domestic Church. So be sure to pop over there after you watch my video so that you can check out her thoughts as well. So the first thing she goes through is the Proverbs 31 woman. And the quote from Proverbs 31 is verses 10 through 13. So it says, "Who can find a good wife? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands." So the first thing that stood out to me, which has always stood out to me from a Proverbs 31 point of view, is that she does him good and not harm. So I want to break that out a bit, because as wives, we have so much power. We have so much power to bless our husbands or to tear him down. And if you've ever listened to Dr. Laura Schlesinger, I think I'm saying that right, I used to all the time when I was younger, and she has a book called The Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands, and the whole book is about how powerful we are as wives and how we can really support our husbands, which ultimately blesses us totally, right? Or we can just tear them down. Another really good book on the subject of womanhood is Fascinating, I think it's called Fascinating Womanhood. I'll link it down below. I have it and I've read bits and pieces of it. It's very, very good. It's very challenging because it really does, it's very countercultural in the idea that we are meant to be feminine and sweet and almost use our feminine wiles with our husbands and things like that, which Dr. Laura also talks about in terms of flirting. But anyway, I digress. So I wrote down some ways, areas in our life where we could not cause our husband harm, right? So financially, how are we in the finances? In public, how do we interact with him? Do we talk down to him in public, or do we support him? Are we quiet and sweet when he's interacting with someone from work or from church or any other kind of situation? How are we affecting his reputation? Are we supporting it by being this loving wife and caring for our children and being his support? Or are we hurting his reputation because maybe we're always dressed in pajamas, or maybe we gossip a lot and it's known? Are we creating a comfortable home for him? Does he want to come home? How is your demeanor? How are the kids' demeanor? How does the house look? Is there food on the table? Does he want to come home to you, or are you causing him harm in the fact that the house is chaotic, both mentally and spiritually and physically and everything? And then also caring for him, are you doing his laundry? Are you ironing his clothes as needed? There's a whole section here about how ironing is this, it can be a way of prayer towards the person that the clothes you're ironing. So ways we can harm our husband are by nagging, complaining, embarrassing him, stressing him out, worrying him, acting helpless, babyish, dependent on him for everything. I see this a lot in the Army. We are asked to be very strong women when our husbands are gone a lot, and some women can't handle it, and they get lonely, and then they cause these he's off in some other country or some other state doing work, and you can't be needy. It's just not part of the agenda as a military wife. So I just thought that little phrase from scripture, right? She does good, not harm all the days of her life. That in and of itself could be a whole video. So that really resonates with me. It always makes me check myself. Where am I harming my husband? And ladies, we all do it, right? We all have moments. Mine in particular is typically hormonal, like I mentioned in the last video, where I can just kind of become really selfish, and I have to step back and say, okay, I need to check myself. Maybe do a count of four, four count breath, like we saw in Daniel Tiger this morning. So I'm that's really a good point. Anyway, so that's the first thing that really stood out to me. So definitely down below, tell me, where are you noticing that you could be better at helping your husband, blessing your husband, and not causing him harm? Where in your life can you flip-flop that? Is it the house? Is it the kids? Is it meals? Is it how you act in public? Is it how you act one-on-one? You know, the list goes on and on. Okay, second thing. A lot of this part of the book talked about clothing. I typically will do laundry every single day, and it just makes it to where it's not like this huge load that takes an hour to do, but I can just kind of get a little bit done every day, and the clothes are always available. And you know what that also helps us is with a minimal wardrobe. So if you have not found Jennifer on the Daily Connoisseur, I'm going to link her down below. Her 10-item wardrobe talk on TEDx completely changed my life in terms of clothing. I don't know if I have a strict 10-item wardrobe because I don't usually count, but the idea is just that you have like these 10 basic pieces, and then things like t-shirts and cardigans and stuff don't count. But the whole idea is just to have a minimal wardrobe. It really does help, like just in terms of stress of clothes and things, but you do have to do laundry a lot. So it's just kind of that give and take in terms there. And there's less options, but to me that's like way less stressful. Okay. So then the next part of the chapter that really stood out to me, and let me know, ladies, if this stood out to you, is working with willing hands. So I think this can be like the hiccup for a lot of us with housework in particular, is it's like, okay, I have to do it, but oh my gosh, I don't want to. I want to do anything else. At least that's what I do. I totally procrastinate. If I'm not like on track with the Fly Lady system, I totally procrastinate, and I'm like, I just don't want to do it. I'd rather play a board game with them. I'd rather watch a movie. I'd rather do homeschool. Pretty much anything else. I'd rather budget than like get off my butt and like clean the windows or something. I don't know about you, but I become very overwhelmed when my house is a mess. And it could be paper. It could be just clutter. We don't keep a lot of things, but stuff kind of piles up because not everything has a home, unfortunately, which I know is a problem. So one thing that's really helped me is the Fly Lady system, particularly how Kat does it over at A Better Life with Kat. So I'm going to link her down below, because if you are struggling at all with homemaking and just kind of getting on top of your stuff, her channel and even her Patreon, it's like $5 a month, has been so helpful with me, even just motivating me to like get off my butt and create some routines and really just kind of start getting control of the home. I get really distracted, and that's what she talks about. What I want to say, and it's something that I remind myself a lot as well, is that we have to be cheerful about cleaning our homes, because otherwise we're sending a message to our family that's really negative. My mom was always really good about cleaning the home, and I never ever once heard her gripe. She worked full time, so she would clean the house on Fridays, and she would put music on, and she would just do her thing, and it never felt like she was burdened by us. And I'm not going to say I've been that good about it. I'm sure I've complained way more. I'm home all day. My kids see every little thing I do, right? So I'm sure they've seen me gripe about something. And the problem is that I can't personally imagine if my mom had like been loading the laundry machine and like complaining about washing my clothes, right? I would have taken that personally as a kid. I would have been like, oh wow, she must not like love me, or I mean that didn't happen. That's what I'm saying. Like I can't imagine, and I really hope I haven't given my kids this impression. Sorry guys, I'm cold. But and so it's so important for us to find the cheer, to find the blessing of the fact that we have a family to wash their clothes. We have a home to wash our windows. I can't remember what I was listening to or something, where this woman was interacting with someone who was homeless, and she was like, does your kitchen have cabinets? And the lady's like, well, yeah, they do. And then she was like, do you have a carpet? You know, and just little things that, yes, we have to care for, but are such blessings, especially to those who don't have them. And like, I've lived with my in-laws for part of my adult life, and I remember them to our first Army post, and we were staying in a hotel, but it was like an apartment, and I was having to clean the counter, but it was like my counter, right? And it really is such a blessing, and it's something that we can get really ungrateful for really fast. Like it can be something that turns into a chore and we don't see it as a blessing. So I'm just trying to encourage all of us, including myself, to see every moment as a blessing. Like I said in the last video, I'm cleaning the toilet as a way to bless my family, right? It's not a chore. And you guys, there's great podcasts to listen. You can listen to Father Ripburger talks. You can get an audiobook, which is, I'm listening to Mere Christianity right now. There's so many things you could do to make chores better. And the other thing is I want to say is that the more we involve our kids with helping, like Kat says that when we do our weekly home blessing hour or we do our zones, the kids' rooms aren't included because kids can do their own vacuuming, their own dusting, their own window cleaning. And so it's really good to just start training the kids. It takes longer, yes, but it's just such an invaluable experience. And I know, like, we've started hand washing all of our dishes, and my daughter does a lot of the dishes now on her own. She's 9, so she can wash and dry and put away all on her own. And even though sometimes she doesn't want to do it, it's made a huge difference in terms of, like her ability to, again, it's a skill, right, that she has. The last thing I wanted to talk about is that Kimberly Hahn talks about how even though we are doing the same tasks day after day, she talks specifically about washing the same shirt that's like blessed all her kids like through so many years. Even though we're making dinner day after day and we're dusting at least once a week, right? And we're vacuuming as often as we do, we are changing and we are growing. And she says 2 things. We are learning to die to self, which is so important. We have to die to ourselves. God keeps hitting me with the humility stick. He keeps making me ill. I guess so I just continue to die to self because there's things I want to do. There's things I think I need to do as a mom or as a wife. And I'm just like, he's like, nope, you're just going to sit here and be sick. It's like, okay. So dying to self is so, so important, right? We may want to do one thing, but we need to do something else. And also to just grow our servant heart. And Jesus says, I washed your feet, the disciples. Now you need to go out and like be those servants for others. Like Jesus didn't come, to be served, but to serve. We all have to emulate that, however painful it is. And of course, I want to end with the scripture that she gave us, which is one of my favorites. It says, I can do all things in him who strengthens me. It's from Philippians 4:13. And we can do all things through him, and all things should be through him. So go do your housework with a sense of joy, especially when you have laundry to do today. And just remember that God is working through you, and he's working on your heart through these smaller details of life. So God bless. Go check out Rhiannon's video for today. If you're from Rhiannon's channel, welcome. I hope you subscribe and join us. And continue to know God, love God, and do God's will. And comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this chapter and on this video. God bless. Bye.